Hey everybody, welcome back to Tim and Tim Talks. We are so happy to have you. This is a continuation of our series. If you haven't watched the first one where we dive into the Zoom and the hacks that we do, definitely check that out. It was a great episode. And when I say we, I can't do this alone, everybody. Mr. Tim Kerbavis, as always. Hey buddy.
Hey, Tim, it's great to slide into your shot here from Sacramento remotely.
I do like that sack slide into the production here. Well done, sir. Very well done.
Thank you.
So this is part 2 of our series. Part 1 was really fantastic. We gave some great information about sort of like our favorite Zoom hack and using a Meet. And now we're like, for those where the clients need to go outside of the Zoom ecosystem for whatever reason, right?
Right.
This is all about the platforms.
Right. We're looking at some various platforms. As you've all realized, there's so many platforms so many that have just appeared over the last year or so. And so today we're just going to take a look at some of the platforms that we've seen and experienced and some of the features that we're excited about in some of the newest platforms.
I mean, it's been, Tim, we've been live for about 30 seconds right now, and I think another 24 platforms have come online, right? This is the number one question.
It seems like it.
We get this more than anything else from clients, right? Hey, have you used platform XYZ? Have you used platform YZX? And our answer is, let me take a look.
Right. And, there's a lot of platforms that are legacy that have been around or that, everybody's using. And we've certainly used many of those. But there's a lot of platforms that are new or have a specific feature or a specific, use case. And, even if we haven't used it before, we're always looking at these platforms and seeing what are people using, what are the features they have, and why are people excited about them. And so we want to talk about some of the things that we're most excited about platforms in the market now.
Totally. And some of these are going to be in the technical side, right? Because we're a part tech show, but also some of these, this is going to be for you marketers out there, right? We're going to definitely address you and your needs in there and which ones have the important features to be able to track and go into the analytics, right? So Tim, last year, some of these platforms, oh my goodness, $20,000? Like we heard some woo.
Yeah, and some of these platforms are very pricey. Some of them are, long commitments or big contracts. And, I think even the platforms that are the most biggest and most legacy platforms in the market, many of them have tiered out their pricing a little more as of this year. I think these were platforms that were really designed for enterprise clients. And I think now they're realizing there's kind of a middle ground.
There's a mainstream appeal to all of this.
Yeah, and so a lot of these platforms, even the ones that had that kind of $20,000 price tag, have created sort of entry-level offerings or tiered offerings that start kind of around the $100 a month range.
Good.
So,
Very
there's definitely
affordable.
a range of products.
Very affordable, right?
Right. And we look at all these platforms and various options, between platforms, even within the platform, the feature sets, there's going to be a fit for you.
Now, one thing that I want to talk about that I don't like about this, and we saw this from 2020, and I heard this from from marketing folks, and this is just sort of my pet peeve of the virtual event world. I don't like it when a virtual event platform replicates, basically crosses the T's and dots the I to what an in-person event will feel. I mean, go so much where you walk into the virtual room door, you have the lobby, it's like all of the replicating the parts that you don't necessarily need. And it's like, yes, it's an event, but we're in the future now. What are the possibilities now that you have this amazing technology?
Right. I mean, I think one of the things about those kinds of platforms that are trying to sort of mirror the real world in a sort of like animated way is, as you said, they're kind of replicating the parts that are least important or even least impactful about events. The walking through the room isn't really the part that you want to replicate. It's the discovery and experience and interaction.
Yes.
And so one of the things we're really excited about with some of the newer platforms in the market is that they're trying sort of an internet-first approach to some of these discovery and networking features.
This kind of like, if you talk about like with Steve Jobs with Apple, right? He'd never really sort of held user focus groups. He's like, the audience doesn't know what they don't know. And so in a sense like this, we are sort of relying on these virtual event platforms to show us tools and ideas that we don't necessarily know. And some of the ones that that I've highlighted here are ones that are basically using what does the future look like, not where have we been, right? Marriage of the best of both worlds. So
Definitely.
oh, I was going to jump into this, but we have something important that we should talk about. All of these ones that we're going to show, we have no sponsorship ties to this, right? We're not getting
Right.
any money from these platforms. There is sort of we don't have a horse in this race, so to speak.
Right. And I would say, too, that we're not necessarily endorsing these specific platforms. These are ones, a mix of platforms that we've used and new platforms that are exciting on the market, but they're not necessarily specific endorsements. You're really going to want to evaluate for your own event
Yes.
which sets of features and opportunities are the right fit for you.
And one thing that you will see is the underlying technology, right, Tim? Through these different platforms, really a lot of these are basically, there's something called WebRTC, right, that we use all the time. Essentially, they're a rebrand of a WebRTC technology. They're using existing sort of protocols. So
Right.
they're rebadging a lot of these known features.
Right, a lot of the platforms are using, as you mentioned, the same underlying technologies and even the same, software tools that power them. What they're innovating is in terms of how they implement those tools, how
Yes.
the user experiences that feature set, and some, as we'll discuss, of the extras that they add on.
So with that, then, we're going to show these websites. We actually didn't have time to go and do all of these ones. There's so many new ones that pop up. So we're basically just going to go show some of our favorite ones here. Some of these we actually haven't even used. We're just like you guys. We're excited to see what is possible, and we want to call out
Right.
the innovators in that space. But all of these have an amazing sales switch. It's just not limited to the examples that we're going to show you. So I would just preface everything that we're going to show, take with a grain of salt. Don't jump into
Right.
the deep end of the pool first. Make sure that you run like rehearsals, right, Tim? We were talking about that earlier. We want to rehearse with
Right.
these.
Right. We talk about, with these things, we're giving a really high level overview, often based on what they're marketing the platform as. One of the keys is, as you're evaluating platforms and testing them for your own use, make sure those features are really going to work in the real world use case that you're using them in. They might work fine. They just might not work in exactly the way you expect them to. And so
Exactly.
they might not fit into your event in quite the same way. The other thing, as you mentioned, rehearsals. Once you've picked a platform, work with your tech team and your talent to really do a full rehearsal with all the features so that everybody's pushed all the buttons and you're not seeing things for the first time on the day of your show.
And that's a really good point, right? So yes, these can be if you have a smaller event, maybe 1 or 2 people, right, can run these. But really, these are also designed to be run with a team because they are very powerful. Tim, I think we've teased this enough now. You're
Yeah.
up first. Who's the first player you brought to this game here, Tim?
Yeah, so here's an example of really one of the market leaders in the virtual event space. This is Hopin. I've created a virtual event for our show here, our Tim and Tim Talk conference in the Hopin platform. Hopin has the basic set of features you'd really expect in a virtual event. You've got a reception area. You've got a main stage. Of course, we're not broadcasting to the stage right now because we're broadcasting to all of you, but this is where your general session would take place. You have some networking sort of breakout sessions here where you can have discussions or special presentations in a smaller scale. You've got some networking features, and you've got an expo hall. Now, I didn't put fancy graphics into this expo hall, but here's a booth for us. And look, it's our first episode with our super silly.
Oh, I
screen
think
cap
that might
there.
be the most popular booth in the whole.
It's going to
look
be
at
the
that
most
one.
popular booth. And look, somebody's
Those
already, I
studs.
guess it was me, complimented us on our booth.
Well, thank you very much. We appreciate that compliment. That's awesome. And listen, Hopin is like you said, right? One of the biggest ones. They have probably gotten. They might be the biggest seed funders. They've raised the most amount of capital, I think, almost out of anyone. So
They've raised a ton of money, a ton of interest, and they're providing a really robust feature set. I should also mention they just acquired StreamYard,
Yep.
which is a online sort of video switching platform that kind of emulates a little more production value than a Zoom call would, and but all in a web browser interface. And they just bought StreamYard to integrate it into the Hopin platform. So I would expect Hopin to beef up their video production capabilities built in the next few months.
totally, that's an awesome one. So that's a little bit sort of like the technology. My first one that I brought into is one called SplashThat. Splashthat.com is the website here for it. This one is actually not a relatively new player. This has actually been around for a couple years before sort of virtual events became all of the rage and your only option in 2020. Splashdot has been around. What I really like about Splash is its integration with its CRM. And that's specifically what I want to call out in this one, right? Because a lot of, if you're a marketer person, right, you want to know sort of like what is the ROI in the event, right? How do you follow up with all of the people and your attendees? How do you send them, hey, did you enjoy this conference? Did you enjoy the the message that was shared or your survey? Splash is integrated. If you have Salesforce or other ones, it's really a strong CRM tied in platform because like it's just not that one day. It's how do you communicate with them afterwards on that. So I really like Splash, and you can also see right here the integration with Zoom. This is something that's going to be happening more and more with platforms, right? Zoom is going to basically be your production, is going to be your camera, is going to be your switching source going into platforms like Splash, or just like Tim, as you mentioned earlier in that last one, kind of how StreamYard integrated with Hopin.
And, Tim, speaking of Zoom, if you haven't seen it, our last episode was about some ways to use Zoom as a conference platform for smaller scale events.
Really great tips and tricks, great hacks in that one.
You mentioned, Tim, that legacy app predating virtual events in the physical event space. I want to show you another platform called SwapCard. SwapCard also existed as an event app for in-person events, and they've really leaned into the virtual product, but they're also keeping those features so that when we go back to events and have combinations of in-person and online audiences, they're really going to be a single platform for both of your online and in-person audiences. One of the things about SwapCard is it's got some built-in agenda tracking features when you've got a bunch of different concurrent sessions. SwapCard lets your attendees log in advance, build their custom agenda for the sessions they want to attend, and then if they're in person, it helps them get to the right sessions. If they're online, it makes sure they're watching the correct videos. It's really designed, with some of those same, audience response and virtual expo kind of tools, but what I think has really set SwapCard apart is that interactive agenda and the ability to do that hybrid event model. So it's really designed to bridge your two sets of audiences once we have both in-person and online audiences.
That's going to be really fascinating, right? Like how is the merger of these worlds going to be, right? You and I have done events for so long, really in-person events, right? Where the live stream was always sort of that, it was like the secondary child that really folks didn't really care too much about. It was everyone spent all of the money and all of the energy to the in-person events, right? That's where all of the focus went. Oh, and by the way, can you live stream? Essentially was an afterthought.
Right.
Now,
and I think what we're going to see much more of is, events that are in person, but putting a lot of energy and attention into that online attendee, and also to some extent bringing presenters in remotely, because I think even just as attendees won't necessarily all be able to travel to your events, I think we're going to see speakers who are going to present remotely to in-person audiences as well.
We did that probably with an event, I would say 3 or 4 years ago, where we brought in a remote speaker, and he was the speaker. He was part of a live panel. There was 2 folks that were there in person, and we put him on the projector screen. So this technology is actually already there. We have already done it. So I think that we're going to see sort of a lot more of that, but we're going to integrate with virtual event platforms for a more robust and better user experience.
And seeing that integration between your online and in-person audiences, that they can interact with the same content at the same time, is going to be key.
It's going to be exciting. I'm really excited about that. Well, speaking of now technologies that I want to lean on the platform to tell me some great ideas and what else is out there. That leads me to the next one, which is called Welcome. The website is experiencewelcome.com. Very slick user website here. I like this here. Now, I haven't actually used this one, as I mentioned earlier. I just discovered this one recently. But what I really like about this, as you can see, you can just slide people over to the stage. But you can mix pre-records and live content. So what I am really, let me scroll down to here. Oh, not the white glove, but your brand, not ours. So this is actually something that's different for Zoom, right? Your event is going to look like a Zoom event, except you're doing it. This is called a white label experience right here, where essentially it's your branding on the website. It's not the company's branding like a Zoom per se, right? So you can do your own custom, you can own graphics. So that's pretty pretty cool. This is what actually I really like right here. Gather your friends in the photo booth. So this is something, right? If you were in a real in-person event, you would grab your friends like, hey, let's go take a picture. I have some of those around my office right now where you just gathered some friends and you did an impromptu picture. Those are the funnest ones. I like that. I like sort of the innovation feature here of just grabbing friends and putting them all together and taking a picture of them. This is where I'm talking about. Let's not build like walking into a VR event space where, you know, it tries to replicate the experience really badly. Let's innovate on ideas. And Tim, I like what Welcome did here. I think that they did a good job.
I think that, you know, building new features for a web first experience,
Yes.
and, you know, things like, right, the conference call selfie has become such a staple of people's experiences. Building that into the platform up front as a tool is a great way to keep your audience engaged. And speaking of engagement, the next platform I wanted to talk about is really built on community engagement. This is Bevy, which is really designed as a community building platform. It's not just the event experience itself. It's how do you take that event experience and extend that to a broader community around your product or service. And so, you know, this is a platform that's really designed, you know, it's got an online conference, you know, interaction tools, you know, sessions, an agenda, you know, networking tools, but it's really designed that this experience for the day or week of your conference is part of a broader experience of community for your members. And so that's something where, you know, we talked about analytics, we talked about data and CRM integrations. Bevy is really designed to integrate all the data from your event with your community data and keep people engaged longer term, more than just your 1 or 2 day event.
That's awesome, right? Because when we talked about that earlier in tips and tricks number 1, right? It's not just a 1 or 2 massive 8 hours per day. Like let's treat this like a real world in-person event.
Right.
What is a web first event? I really like that
Right.
idea for
And
30 minutes and 1 hour events. Keep the conversation
Right.
going.
And looking at things as a web first, you know, what can we do online that we can't do in person? Not just how do we translate an experience to the web.
I love it. I love it. Cool. Well, we look forward to hearing, like, if we've missed one of your favorite platforms, hey, what a perfect time, Tim. Let's throw up the socials here. Have them reach out. Reach out to us. Tell us what we missed. Maybe you have a favorite one, or maybe you want to echo something that we have already talked about, and you're like, hey, that's actually one of my favorite ones. Reach out to us. Also, if you have a friend or a colleague or somebody planning a virtual event, we're totally shareable. Share us with your friend or your colleague, and hopefully we can give them some tips and tricks. We definitely appreciate you tuning in and sticking with us here. We hope we gave you some value in this short amount of time here. Tim, we got anything else before signing off?
I think we better wrap it up, Tim.
I'm out of coffee, Tim, so I'm going to go get another one. I am Tim K with Argus HD.
And I'm Tim Kerbavis with Talent Audio Visual. Thank you for joining us.
Thank
we
you.
talked.